Remote management, my own experience has been that there are some unique challenges in doing so. If you're working in an office and you have your team, they're usually working at the same space as you are. However, when you're working remotely and they're working remotely, there's a whole new series of issues that surface. How do you manage that team from afar? How do you ensure that they are doing what needs to be done? How do you keep them motivated and performing at a high level? If everybody is working in a different location, not just London, working with Athens, working with Boston, working with Toronto, but even in the same city, everybody's working from their own home offices. How do you keep them synced?
My name is Zaharenia Atzitzikaki. I am VP of Design right now in Workable. And I have been in Workable for about 7 to 8 years, I think. And I have been working remotely for more than 10 at this point because I was freelancer before I started working at Workable. I first became a manager 5 years ago. And of course, it started with just one person, and now we have like 17 people in my side of the org chart. And the interesting thing here is that I have never been, a co-located manager. I've always been a remote manager. It's all I know. For years, I have been managing remotely from my office in Crete. I have been managing a co-located team in our office in Athens. So most of my team were in Athens, and I was the only one who was, working remotely for quite a long, actually, up until, COVID came along. I've been one of the few fully remote employees of the company. And at some point I was feeling a bit like Big Brother, a bit like Charlie from Charlie's Angels, like talking from a headphone. Everyone was in the same room and I was just on a screen. So that was challenging. And if you think fully remote meetings are tough, you should see how tough it is when there's the team in one room and you are at home.
The social media management software Buffer did a survey on remote work before COVID-19. They found that the 3 biggest challenges in remote work were communication, collaboration, and loneliness, which are all challenges that you have to manage if you are a remote manager.
For remote managers, because managers are mostly, working mostly in sync with their team. So asynchronous work, like what we like to repeat now that everyone's on remote work, it's not always the deal with remote managers because you have to talk with people, you have to coach them, to mentor them, and that's mostly a synchronous process. So what I felt was most challenging was the fear of missing out. That went on overdrive because I knew everyone was in the same room and I knew there were like discussions and people were bonding and I wasn't there.
There are 2 elements of being a manager. One element of it is managing the tactical work, the logistics, keeping everything organized, trying to make sure that everybody does the work properly and towards the same goals, and a lot of different things like that. But another element of being a manager is you are a people manager. You are managing people, you're managing human beings. And as a leader of those people, it may fall on you to keep them motivated, to help them feel engaged and included. That's part of inclusive leadership.
Workable wasn't a remote first company, and lots of our culture, I think, was built around the office. And I guess that many companies can say that. Lots of our culture happened between people communicating in an office environment. And I think we kind of rode that wave to remote as well. Like there are relationships between people right now that are very, very strong. They started like face to face, and we can actually take those relationships and they translate to remote too.
Dropbox, the cloud storage company, did a survey that they released in August 2020. They found that what distributed teams missed the most was human connection. Not collaboration, none of that, but human connection.
If you don't talk intentionally with someone, if you don't go out and say, hey, can we chat for like 15 minutes? Or if you don't write to each other on Slack, basically this person does not exist and you do not exist for that person. Because there's no, you can't see them down the corridor and maybe have lunch together. You don't have this chance to communicate with them, to connect with them. So as I said, I try to be intentional about our communication. So just grab, you don't have to have like a reason, like a set one-on-one meeting to talk with them. You can just grab them and have like a 15-minute chat, or even talk on Slack, or even write on Slack to them and just check and see how life is these challenging times. One thing that I always advise people that are striving a bit to navigate this situation is allow for awkwardness, allow for creativity. Everyone is at home right now. Lots and lots of us have like kids at home, people that need our care. It's okay if someone's kid just crashes a meeting. It's totally okay. It's fine. Show us your kids. We want to talk to them. Show us your pets. And be okay with the fact that there will be awkward moments. Allow for silliness, allow for creativity, share your best memes, do some very, very awkward icebreaker questions. It usually takes about 1 to 2 questions for the conversation to just heat up and just go its own way. Maybe even use like the 5 first minutes of each meeting to just talk a bit, have a bit of a chit chat with the team, like ask what's going on, be a bit human, not just start the work meeting just when everyone joins in. I'm a bit skeptical about the virtual water cooler meetings, and I make it clear to my team that it's not something that you have to attend. It's nice if you have some time, but I am cautious, and I'm a bit hyper aware of using people's time to connect with the team and relax, because they might not find that relaxing.
An understandable concern about remote work as a manager is, how can you ensure that people are doing their job properly or even just remaining productive?
Remote work is like the one situation where you actually have to trust people for it to work. It won't work in any other way. And I realized that lots of this approach to remote work comes from a place where people, like managers, feel they don't have control over a situation. And that's normal, but we have to be cautious of that. Is it a situation where I'm reacting like that because I think that I lost control, or do I really have a reason to suspect that a team member is not as productive when from home? Another thing is that it's totally normal in this year, 2020, it's totally normal to actually experience a dip in productivity. But most of the times I find out that the opposite is true.
HR and benefits consulting firm Mercer did a study on that, productivity during these COVID-19 times. They surveyed 800 employers, and they found that 94% of them saw that their productivity remained the same or even grew compared to before the pandemic.
When a team starts working remotely, most of the companies out there, they actually experience like an uptick in productivity. And I realized lots of that comes from a place like people want to broadcast they're more productive, so that because they want to actually gain that trust. But I think that as a manager, you have to invest in that trust. There are ways to actually help your team with productivity and keeping track of their work. But of course, we don't have to go to the other side of like, I've read somewhere that managers have been buying surveillance software like the sales. They just went up and up when remote work was introduced because of the coronavirus. So we don't want to go there. This is a sign to your team that you actually don't trust them. Just trust your people. Remember why you hired them. You didn't hire them to be always at their shoulder and giving them guidance. They're adults. They know that if they will have to be productive, just give them the tools to communicate. If they have any kind of problem that creates any roadblocks for them, give them the tools to create an environment where they can actually say, hey, I'm very busy right now. I can't take on more work. Is there anyone that can help? So tools like that, so you can empower the team to be productive without working too long hours just to prove they're actually more productive when working from home. Buzzwords like asynchronous work and results-based are buzzing basically right now because if people are working remotely, you can't actually see their working. You have to see the results of their work. So it doesn't matter for me if someone is like spends 8 hours in front of their screen. Actually, I don't want them spending 8 hours in front of their screen every day when working remotely, because they have to take care of their families, they have to take care of themselves, they have to take some breaks. You have to be completely clear that these are going to be the times that everyone should be overlapping and everyone should be working during this time. And this is when we're going to schedule our meetings so that everyone can have the chance to join. And other than that, make absolutely clear what the objective is, what the work is, how high the standard of work is has to be. Like, I want you to do this, I want it to be this good, and I want it by that date. And then trust the people to actually deliver.
One of the big elements of being a remote manager is building your team, which means evaluating and hiring. You want to fill those spots, but now those spots are going to be remote. So, how do you hire somebody remotely? What skills do you hire for?
The skills that you're hiring for are not going to change. But hiring remotely means a bigger focus on communication. They have to be an excellent communicator, especially written. Because when you switch to remote work, you switch from talk first, speak first, to write first. People are going to have to write to communicate. So they have to be excellent writers. They have to explain themselves like in a consistent way, in a concise way, and they should make their point across. Another thing that I look for is, of course, empathy. Are they good with people? Again, are they good communicators? Sometimes you get these subtle passive-aggressive red flags kind of things, and if people actually don't, make their spider sense thinking when it's actually their interview, like they have to be the best they are, how would that work when they have like a tight deadline, when they have a conflict they have to resolve in the team? So you have to look for these subtle things, but basically they have to care about people and they have to care about how people perceive what they say, because it's very, very easy to get misunderstood when working remotely. And of course, another thing is being self-starter, self-motivated. People that need lots and lots of guidance are going to be, at first at least, less productive because you have to spend extra time, extra effort to guide them from one task to another. Being self-motivated is quite important for remote work. And of course, it's good if they have prior experience in working remotely. Not that if someone doesn't have this kind of experience, not that they're going to get disqualified because of that, because as a manager, you have to train your people. If you have someone that's new to remote work, you have to train them and explain to them what are the pitfalls, what are the different processes that as a team you put together to be productive. I tend to ask some a bit difficult questions with the sense that I ask them how they approached like a communication problem in the past. I asked them, okay, what was the communication problem based on, and what did you do to resolve it? And what would you do differently, maybe, if it didn't go well? I'm trying to probe them to reveal more about the way they're working with their team. I'm asking them about successful projects or unsuccessful projects, and what do they think went well and what do they think went wrong. So you can learn a lot from what people consider as a failed project or a project that went well, and when they're trying to give reasoning for that. I am asking questions about their relationship with a previous manager, a manager in the past that they think it was productive, and what went well with that. Just this kind of so-called soft skills, like questions that are not used to test their actual skills. You shouldn't actually, as the manager of that team, you shouldn't leave important decisions or important discussions till you're back in the office. This is going to be quite late.
Remote workers have found that they love working from home. In fact, the survey from Buffer, which was done before the COVID-19 pandemic, found that of all remote workers, 98% of them would rather stay remote to some degree for the rest of their careers. Perhaps this is a new reality that we need to adapt to as managers and as employers.
Yeah, you have to make use of the situation as best as you can. As a manager, you have to create the environment for your team to be effective, to be productive, as well as you can. That's your role, basically, to make it easy for them to create their best work. You have to invest in actually creating the environment for them to be as productive and as healthy as possible.